So I'm a big fan of you, as you know. Dani, you are the Director of Training and Head Trainer at PVOL, which is a low-impact functional movement method.
So with PVOL, we're really form-focused, and we take you through movement patterns that you would do through your everyday life, hinging, sitting, your walking gait. So it's a really sustainable way to work, but I think when people hear low impact or functional, they think it's easy, and it's really not.
Do you see this sweat?
Hang on.
You just have to experience the workout. It's just a really smart, sustainable way to work out.
Did you dance competitively?
Danced competitively. I would do like 14 dance competitions a year. My parents would work so many extra hours for me to do all of the dance things that I wanted. I was very
Because
lucky.
you'd have to pay to apply.
Yeah, and dance is a very expensive sport.
You were quite the hustler in New York City. That was also a time when you experienced like a loss of a loved one too. What did that moment in time teach you?
I was 22, 23 when it happened, and a lot of people's first love comes in heartbreak, and mine came in like this really tragic loss. The thing about loss is people can sit with you in it, but it's not something that anyone else can help you out of but yourself.
Hello, Dani.
Hi, Melissa.
Welcome to Happy Hour.
So excited. Thank you for having me.
So I'm a big fan of you, as you know. And people after this episode will also be big fans. But today I have someone that I also personally know. Dani, you are the Director of Training and Head Trainer at PVOL, which is a low-impact functional movement method. Now, unlike most traditional workouts that use repetitive stationary moves, PVOL workouts use science-backed dynamic movements to work multiple muscles at once for stability, mobility, flexibility, and full body strength. How did I do?
I wish I could put you in my pocket and take you everywhere with me. That was great.
I think this is a fitting episode to reveal that I worked there for 3 months. I was probably the shortest lived employee there because, like, I'm sure you know that, like, I had to make some life adjustments. And after I got into my car accident, I was like, Melissa, you just can't stop working that hard. And I was actually really sad to leave. And the manager, my previous manager, Nick, was actually super great about it.
We love Nick.
But you are also Jennifer Aniston's personal trainer because she's also a PVOL girly. She's also an ally, which I'm very excited to report about too.
Yeah, specifically her PVOL trainer.
Her
Yeah.
PVOL trainer. You can be found teaching in the Los Angeles studio, which I, of course, visit when I can, the live virtual studio, and on demand via PVOL's online membership, which I also have, and I have the entire Total Transformation kit as well because I live a little further away. So it's just nice when I wake up or when I don't want to drive all the way down here. I just have the equipment at home and I can just log in and do a class.
Yeah, it's fun to be with Melissa in person. She's sometimes on my online classes, so we train together via Zoom, which is fun.
So I want to talk about the first time I went to PVOL and how I found out of PVOL and why you should go to PVOL as well. PVOL have literally giving you full, like, free publicity. I remember when I was about to graduate college, like, there was this YouTuber that I was subscribed to. She did PVOL in New York back when PVOL was, like, based in New York, where it was started. And I would see her doing these PVOL workouts in YouTube, and I'm like, like, this is a really interesting thing, a very interesting method where you're, like, doing all these very interesting dynamic poses, and you're, like, a lot of, like, hip movements as well. And so when I graduated and I moved to LA, I saw the PVOL studio, and I was like, I'll try it out. And I tried it out, and you were teaching. It was like maybe an 11 a.m. class.
Okay.
And I was instantly hooked. And after class, I came up to you and I was like, hi, my name is Melissa. It's like, this is what I like to do for my workout method. And like, this is really interesting. And you were like, oh, so you're more of like a cardio person. Why don't you try my sculpt and burn class? And I went back the next day.
How did we do?
It was fun.
Yeah.
I'm very much a cardio person. And I really liked the second class that I took. And I have been going since, and now more online, but
It's hard to find people that love cardio, so we love to hear that as trainers. It is important. So is weightlifting and a lot of other things, but rarely do you find someone that's gung-ho on cardio, so we love to hear it.
But yes, okay, anyway, I have my happy hour drinks right now, so why don't we dig into them?
Very rare that we get food and snacks on podcast. Thank you.
For anyone who's like, okay, Melissa, you're talking about this low impact functional movement. It's like, I feel like the conversation on low impact movement has just been kind of like being more in discussion because everyone loves doing HIIT workouts. So for if you were to talk to someone who like has never done anything functional or low impact at all, like how would you define that?
I think it's very a sustainable way to work out. So I think, I don't like to place hierarchy on workouts. I think if HIIT works for you, that's amazing. If PVolve works for you, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think where people sometimes can run into obstacles or trouble is not knowing how to execute movements correctly. So when you're moving at a faster pace, like a HIIT workout or those high intensity where your body's really exhausted and you start to lose form, that's when sometimes you're more prone to injury. So with PVolve, we're really form focused and we take you through movement patterns that you would do through your everyday life, hinging, sitting, walk, like your walking gait. So it's a really sustainable way to work. But I think when people hear low impact or functional, they think it's easy and it's really not. And I tell people it's my favorite thing. You just have to experience the workout. It's just a really smart, sustainable way to work out. And when, we're talking about hormones and things, the thing that I love about PVolve is there's so many different programs within PVolve on our on-demand library. Like if you're dealing with endometriosis, if you're struggled with maybe, if you're going through fertility treatments or menopause, phase and function, cycle syncing. So I think there's really like a pocket for each person. And outside of all of that, women's wellness too, there is weight training, there's cardio. So we do move at faster tempos. That's important as well. Reflexes, power throughout your life. So really like a one-stop shop for any and all of your needs. That's going to really just meet you wherever you are in your life.
Yeah. What I really like about, just doing PVolve for a while now is that when most people work out, they roll out a yoga mat and then they just do moves on a yoga mat, like either in one plane. But then when you walk into a PVolve class or when you do it online, you do notice that a lot of the blocks are standing because that's how we normally would move in life. We're not going to be gliding through life on a yoga mat. So that was what really also stuck with me when I did that first class. I'm like, oh, we're
very
standing.
three-dimensional.
Yes, very three-dimensional. And also a lot of people I do agree. It's like when they hear low impact, they're like, oh, it's going to be an easy class. And they come and take this class and it is not easy at all. But when they come back the second time, they start to get it a bit more and they're like, oh, I kind of see why, the moves work like this.
And I think that's a unique thing about PVolve too, is it's unlike anything else, truly. So the first time you experience it, I think you're a little bit like, what is this? And it's also fighting all those old notions of go harder, break your body. We don't want you to break your body. We want you to listen to it. We want you to modify and realize that working out doesn't have to feel bad, because I think there's a lot of times where when you think about workouts, you're either so debilitatingly sore the next day taking stairs or it's just so hard that your body doesn't look forward to your workout. And I think that's one of the things PVolve really did for me, was cultivate a healthy relationship with working out and movement, especially coming from a professional dance background. It just, especially as a dancer, you swallow pain. You don't talk about it and you just, fight through it. And I think it's one of the best things about PVolve is it taught me how to honor my body, but also to give it what it needs. And I think that's a really cool part of the workout.
And what I love about just being a PVolve girly is that it's really a one-stop shop for all your different workout needs. So for example, I have started to taper off from doing all the fast HIIT workouts all the damn time, because I'm like, what if I feel tired one day and I don't want to do what if I'm on my period one day and I don't want to do a HIIT workout? And so it was also through PVolve that I discovered what cycle syncing was, which a lot of people don't know, because in the past I thought that my cycle was just when my period came, and probably a lot of women and probably guys think that too.
Yeah, I don't think women's talking about the menstrual cycle, menopause, all of these topics felt very hush hush. So I love that we're even opening up that conversation and it feels more casual, right? That we can even talk about pelvic floor. And that's something that I will honestly admit to that I didn't really know much about until PVolve. Just, you don't talk about pelvic floor. You don't hear about it. You don't know that that's a crucial part of, your wellness, your core, your musculature, so been pretty eye-opening even being a trainer here, which has been really cool.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to go back in time now and go to young Dani. So you were quite the East Coast gal, right?
Yes. So I was born in California, but grew up in New York and New Jersey. I primarily New Jersey, went to college in New York.
Can I say that I have quite the affinity towards people who have an affiliation from New Jersey. Like I feel like people who have made like a very, what is it about like, is it called New Jerseyans? New Jerseyans?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, actually.
Many of my past coworkers who are from New Jersey, I'm like, there's something about New Jerseyans that's like very easy to get along with them.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
I love Jersey folk. Anytime I'm on the West Coast and I run into someone from New Jersey, it's like this instant bond. I don't know what it is. I think really just vivacious people and kind. And I think New Jersey gets a bad rep probably from like reality television, you know, those old school shows on MTV like Jersey, you know, all that stuff. So I feel like people have this funny notion of New Jersey that we're like fake tanned and, you know, that GTL gym tan laundry life. But
oh my God.
Really, I credit New Jersey because so much of my happiness and childhood and my roots come from New Jersey. So can only say great things about New Jersey.
So when did you move to New Jersey then, if you were born in California?
So I lived in Maryland for a while, so I was born in California, was in Maryland until about 4th grade. And then from 5th grade through the rest of high school, I was in New Jersey. So it's really kind of where I credit my growing up, because I felt like I lived the longest part of my childhood there. And then went to college in New York.
Yeah. So you discovered dancing at a very young age, did you?
Yeah, since I was 2. Basically, since I could walk, I've been in dance lessons. So
because I know that you're a biracial baby, and so it's like, you know, your mom is Japanese, right? And
Yes.
your dad's
Caucasian,
French, Irish,
Swedish, a big old
Swedish.
mix of things. Yeah.
So how did their parenting styles differ over the years?
I think my mom was very much more the disciplinary, which I think, you know, if you come from a Asian parenting, sometimes you're familiar with that, you know, just good grades and really those high standards of academics and just striving to be the best at your field. She was definitely the person we were a little intimidated by.
Because you have a brother too.
Yeah, my brothers. I have 2 brothers. And my dad was more laid back in the sense if, you know, we got a B or a C and we took it to him, he would help us approach our mom about it, you know, and that rarely happened. So we were terrified when it did, because my mom was very much that, you know, Asian excellence. You gotta get those good grades. And if I didn't get good grades, I couldn't dance and, you know, go to my dance classes and things like that. So she always upheld those really high standards, which can be hard at some points, but also just I credit her because, you know, our work ethic is, I feel very grateful that my parents, both of them, really did instill that in me, because it goes a long way, a good work ethic, I feel like.
But the 2 of them equally were very supportive of your dance career at an early age?
Yeah, both of them were, which again is, I think, an interesting notion, but both my parents never once deterred me from dancing, even when I said I wanted to go to college for it and now have student loans and, you know, a BFA in dance. I think there's a lot of critiques or, you know, comments that people could say about that, but my parents always advocated for my brothers and I to do what we loved, no matter what that was. So
but like do it with excellence.
Yes, but do it with excellence. And like, you can do whatever you want, but you will do it with excellence. It's actually very true. Yes. So I just worked really hard ever, you know, dancing and growing up, and just excellence was expected.
Okay, this is so interesting because like now I'm having finally a proper sit down chat with you, and like usually whenever anyone takes a class with you, it's like you're like, oh, thanks for the class, Danny, and they're like, how was your week? Oh, it was good, and then you leave and you have to teach your next class. So it's like I'm like, oh, I'm just learning, you know, a few new things about you. But speaking of your childhood, because I know that like a lot of biracial kids, they grow up and they're like, I don't know who I am, or you know, and like people, you are treated in a certain way where people don't know how to label you. Like, what was kind of your experience just growing up as a biracial kid?
Yeah, I honestly felt like I grew up more connected to my American roots, because my mom, you know, my mom was also born in California. My I think it was like my great grandmother. I'm like 4th generation, I feel like here. So, you know, my Japanese culture wasn't something that I've come to connect to until later on in life. And I don't know if it's because I was mostly in New Jersey, and, you know, I grew up around a lot of AAPI identifying people. So it wasn't that I wasn't around it, but it wasn't until like 5th grade and on that I was actually around that community. There wasn't too big of an AAPI community in Maryland when I was younger. So also just when you get older, I think your eyes just open up to more parts of the world, parts of yourself that maybe you realize like, oh, I wasn't connecting to this, or I didn't know much about this. So I felt like I did identify a little bit more with my Americanized side. And just recently in my more like womanhood and adulthood have come to really try to connect more with my Japanese side. So I don't know. I think I've always lied in this like, really interesting place of having my Japanese side and American side. And it's just been an interesting place to exist, you know? Sometimes I wish I could like just fully identify as one, because then you feel like, you know, I feel like when I go to Japan for the first time, which I think will hopefully be this January, I'm just curious to see what that's like as a biracial person. And, you know, in America, it's such a diverse place, especially California where we're currently at. So it's not something I overly take note of, but it's an interesting and most times a fun pocket to be in.
Yeah. Well, I'm not biracial. I'm fully Chinese, but kind of a similar experience is that because although I grew up in Asia my entire life before college, I went to international schools my entire life, and so I always believed that like lean into your American side because that's the better side.
Yeah.
But now like coming to America, I'm like America's is not a very glamorous place though, and it's like the ideologies that it represents I sometimes don't necessarily agree with, like versus my Asianness. And so like I feel like a lot of people who have like both that Asian or American side, whether you're biracial or whether you're someone who grew up who was like an international student, we all can kind of agree that as we grow older, we start to get more in touch with our Asian side. And
I think it's unlearning too.
Yeah.
Because I talked about, like, I felt like I was self-hating when I was younger. You know, I think there's little microaggressions now that I recognize that people would say when you're younger or
like,
tease
for example,
you about.
what?
I just remember at a young age, awful things like, I don't know, just like your eyes shape and stuff. And, you know, kids asking you, why are your eyes shaped like that? Like those kind of things just because you're, you know, just those things that when you're a kid, you don't, you know, I'm young. I don't know. They didn't know how to like approach those conversations or what to say back, or even that question was wrong. You know, I just remember these little things when I was growing up would happen. And now that in retrospect, I'm like, oh, okay. So I feel like also just, I was a little self-hating on my Japanese side, you know, because I think it wasn't something I was always growing up around. And like I said, I didn't really feel like I had much Japanese culture growing up. So something I'm learning to like really find out and learn about this not later part of my life. I'm not later, but yeah, you know, like in my 30s, something I'm like more gravitating towards.
Yeah. What actions would you do proactively to like be more in touch with your Asian or Japanese side now?
Yeah, I think more just like educating myself on Japanese culture, just reading books, you know, also reading books by Japanese authors, just trying to connect a little bit more on like the literature and the art side, as well as I've been volunteering at the Little Tokyo Service Center, which is something I talk a lot about. And they have incredible volunteers. I'm just one that gets to come in and teach a little senior citizen movement class. And it's a way that I feel like I can give back to both my AAPI roots, and to like an underserved community in fitness, you know? So that's one thing that I'm doing, and just seeking more community like API identifying. So supporting those businesses, and there's like plenty of those in California and markets where a bunch of like API creators come together, talking to people like you know, just actively seeking those friendships and connections and community.
Yeah. Your service at what's it called? The Little
Tokyo Service Center.
Little Tokyo Service Center. It's so cute. I saw a video of you like teaching the elderly citizens. I'm like, they're doing pavlov essentially. But that's something I want to talk about, just like the concept of service. I feel like in our generation, for millennials and Gen Z, I just get the feeling that the concept of service is not a priority to a lot of people anymore. I don't know if you can tell me if you agree with me on this or not, but what is your reason on like why you choose to serve, why you serve, and like why you think people should also serve?
Yeah, I think for me, it's the best 45 minutes truly of my week. And I tell people that openly and honestly. I think it reminds me of my why when I do it, which is, and I just have this idea that if I'm on this earth for this blink of time, if I'm not giving back to people, then like, what am I doing? If I'm not helping someone's life be better with the privileges that I do have, what am I doing? You know, so these are just, for me, my philosophy is with the time that I have, that's extra, I want to make it count and do things that are fulfilling to me. So for me, it's just helping someone feel good for 45 minutes of their week, I think is something I never take lightly. Is just being responsible for someone's time and body for 45 minutes is a really, truly beautiful thing. And I think sometimes when we're in our daily work week, sometimes things can just feel a little bit overwhelming, or you're stressed from work, or you're like go, 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 and it feels like you're in the grind. So those little moments of just connecting with people that are so just happy to be in your space, you know, is like such
Yes.
a beautiful thing, and it just grounds me truly.
Yes.
So that's really it. It just grounds me and centers me, and I'm hoping that I can make their week a little bit better. But it's just something that makes me feel better too, you know?
That's something that you talked about, grounding. I think also, I mean, I don't want to like I'm just like postulating, but I also think that over the years, the youth or the younger generation has become like increasingly more anxious, increasingly more depressed, and so they feel like there's already so many looming problems in their life. Like, to care for someone else seems like another problem that it's like I can't even think about that right now. But like when you serve someone, it's a grounding experience, and that in a way is a very healing experience. Like, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but does that feel that way then?
It does feel that way. And also, I think for me, like I'm on social media, obviously, right? It's a part of jobs, marketing, and everything. But I really wanted to do something that was outside of connecting with someone virtually. And I always say like my currency is with people, like the magic is in the moment, like face to face, that human interaction. So it's just like a sacred time for me for that is just doing something that, you know, just in the person, in the moment with people. That human connection is something I really gravitate towards. So I think, like, especially with social media and pressures today, like anxiety and things is very real, especially with youth. And also social media becomes this, I'm constantly, or like fitness even sometimes feels like I'm just focusing on myself, my body, you know what I mean? Because you are this also, you know, you're bringing to life a brand and things. So sometimes that's why I actually kind of stepped away a little bit from dance, is I felt like I was just focusing on myself and achieving this thing, but wanted to give back more. And I felt like fitness gave a little bit more back.
I know a lot of dancers that like struggle so much with their identity because like you have mirrors all around you, and
It's
like, that's all you
hard,
look
yeah.
at. So I'm sure that was like,
It does a lot, for your self-esteem, body image, all of those things, you know.
Sure.
You're constantly just being judged on your who you are. So it's something I'm grateful for, because it definitely gave me thick skin at a young age, just walking to an audition and someone just looking at you being like, nope, you know. But it's also like the hard part that I feel like you're also unlearning is, okay, my value is more than just this body, this currency, this, you know, this thing that I look like. So
I'm gonna take another sip and then ask you a question. Okay, so still back in time. Did you dance competitively, or like what did you do when you
danced competitively? I would do like 14 dance competitions a year. My parents would work so many extra hours for me to do all of the dance things that I wanted. I was very
because
lucky.
you'd have to pay to apply.
Yeah, and dance is a very expensive sport, an art. And one of the things that I tell people is like, I was in college and my father was still, and like my parents were still supporting my dance bill from high school. Like my parents were, you know, like the bills are very expensive, and they always wanted me to get the best training, so they sacrificed a lot for that to be able to happen. But I grew up competitively dancing, I think, since like 9. I would just travel and compete.
Like, where would you travel?
Most of my competitions were local in the sense of like Maryland, you know, that area, Virginia, DC when I was growing up, or New Jersey. We, you know, fly to nationals and Orlando sometimes. I would go to New York City for dance programs. So a little bit of everywhere.
And like what dance styles are you trained in?
Ooh, a little bit of everything, honestly. I grew up mostly in like tap, jazz, ballet, classical. I went to college and I majored in modern dance, so more traditional style of dances, I would say. And then I wanted to come and do hip hop in LA, which is so funny because I'm not a hip hop dancer, but I loved it so much. But I just grew up very classically trained, so for me to like relax, it was really hard.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, I'm not gonna be a hip hop dancer, and a little bit of everything. But
you know, I've like always wanted to tap dance because
was my favorite.
Because like, I watched this one scene in The Penguins of Madagascar and I saw them river dancing and I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, that's not the same as tap dancing, but when I saw their feet move, I was like, oh my gosh, like that's really fun. So it's always been like something in the back of my mind.
I mean, it's never too late. I still dance, you know, and have for fun, but not like to professionally pursue it since I'm full time.
I wanted to ask, like, because you have like a full-time, you know, corporate job, and then you train people on the side as well. Like, how do you find the time to just like dance and to just do your own thing. you
Yeah.
know?
Well, that's something I also recently have, and I'd say like, recently in the last month have put priority on is giving back to my time and myself, because I think I'm such a productivity person. I like a schedule. I like a routine. I feel good when I can check off tasks. So redefining my worth outside of productivity, outside of my work, outside of go has been something I've actually really invested in these last couple months, is working out for myself or bringing joy, sparking joy for myself, and whatever
Yes.
that looks like, whether that's reading a book, whether that's going to take a dance class or renting a dance studio and just dancing and creating something for myself, volunteering. It's really something that I have to fight for, because especially when your work is so physical, like I don't want to work out, or sometimes dancing felt hard, or even getting up and just sharing energy with people, because all I do all day is like share my energy with people, which I love, but it also feels at the end of the day sometimes like you've given everything away.
Yeah, and like sometimes you have to
what's
give energy
left?
at 6 a.m.
Yeah, and and it's not really a thing where you can be off, It's like people are coming to you to make their day better, to get their day started off on the right foot, to feel good in their bodies and their minds. So it's not like, I could be like, guys, I'm having a day when I'm teaching a class. So that's actually just been something that I've really recently been focused on, is self-care and whatever that looks like for people.
Yeah, because the life of a fitness instructor can be quite, physically like challenging, because
Totally.
now in LA, it's like I know a lot of people who teach a lot of those group classes, and sometimes like people like to work out at 6 a.m. But guess what? Your instructor probably has to wake up like way ahead of time to make sure that, they have the energy to teach you that 6 a.m. class that you love. So like tell the audience about your schedule when you have like a very early schedule.
Yeah.
Because like at P-Volve, the earliest class time is at 6 a.m. And I remember one time, when I was working there, I like walked into the studio and you were there eating breakfast on the studio floor. Walk me through what your evening routine would look like leading up to that morning class session.
Well, I'm getting better at preserving, in the sense I don't think I ever valued sleep. I would pride myself that I could get 4 hours of sleep and go hit things. And like, so I've been trying to shut down. I'll try to be shut down by 10 o'clock at night, like at least in bed, trying to quiet my mind. And that's so no screen time and just time to like read a book, relax. I've been trying to put my phone on Do Not Disturb,
Yeah.
but I have like this tick where I just feel like I constantly have to check, your emails or Slacks. And if I have to wake up at 4, I like probably too much like OCD a little bit check that I don't like that my alarm's set a million times.
Yeah.
So there's definitely an anxiety, but I'll wake up about 4 o'clock in the morning. I always have overnight oats, and I typically bring them to the studio because it takes me a second to wake up my body, and I will eat them at the studio as like my morning time. And it seems rough, but it's actually just my morning routine. And I think everyone at P-Volve LA has probably come into a morning shift where I'm just sitting on the studio floor eating my overnight oats, looking at my class plan. Got to get some coffee, but I definitely wake up a little bit earlier because it's hard to like lead people motivationally if I'm not awake myself. So I definitely have a morning routine, but now I've gotten good at it, I think. But do you ever really get good at waking up at 4 a.m.? It just still feels a little unnatural. 5, I'm used to now. 4, I'm like, that is a push.
Yeah.
But
I remember when there was a month where I committed to taking the 6:30 a.m. live virtual classes on P-Volve. And that was already so hard to literally, like, I would literally set the equipment up like next to me, and like my workout outfit, I would set it up, I literally have my shoes there, like indoor workout shoes, because you have to have indoor workout shoes. But like sometimes I would just cancel the class because I'm like, damn, it's so hard to wake up, like even at 6 a.m. But like, before, when I was still working at P-Volve, it's like I told you, I would also wake up at 4 a.m. and then leave the house at 5 to clock in for a 5:30 a.m. shift. It never gets easier.
No.
And for you to do this for many years, and for a lot of people, for example, a lot of fitness instructors, maybe sometimes they'll have like an early morning class schedule, and then the next day they teach at night. Like how do you, I'm sure you like had a fair share of having to adjust to that very drastic schedule change. Like, how does that make your body feel? I just want to know.
I think I've been just doing this. I think that's one of the things with fitness, like many people in service, hospitality, like your schedule is not a typical 9 to 5.
It's shift work.
Yeah, and I do have those more, I guess, administrative responsibilities within my role as well. And especially being on the West Coast, I feel like I wake up and I'm instantly just in deficit because most of the team is East Coast based. So I feel like right away, as soon as I get up, there's, things to do, emails to answer, Slacks to answer. So I feel like your body just gets accustomed to. I especially feel like for my performance time and years, I've always just been, okay, I'm waking up teaching 3 fitness classes, going to an audition in between, the dance rehearsals at night, repeat, like wash, rinse, and repeat. So I feel like I never have 2 weekend days off. Like, I don't know what that's like to have a weekend off. I think that is one thing you just get used to, is just this ever-changing schedule. I also think it works well for me because coming from a performance background, my day-to-days were so different. So it's nice to, every day is a little different within my role, which is fun. Keeps things interesting for sure. But I think I'm just honestly accustomed to this lifestyle of like early mornings, late nights, weekends. I don't know.
Yeah.
I look forward to the day where there's like 2 weekend days, but or like just 2 days off in general, or a more consistent schedule. But I don't think that's something that'll happen for me for a while, and that's okay because I enjoy, a little day-to-day switch up. It's fun right now.
It's probably also the East Coast in you. You're
I
like,
know that hustler. Yes.
Yeah. So speaking of the hustler, the concept of the hustler, let's now go to college East Coast. Danny.
Yes.
So you went to Marymount Manhattan College. You got your BFA in dance there. And I read that you were quite the hustler in New York City. I wrote this down.
No.
You were a full-time dance student, and then on the weekends, that's when you earn your rent. This is what I read. You would take the bus to New Jersey from New York to teach dance in the mornings, and then you take the bus back to the city to be a hostess till late at night.
Yes.
So that is, and also at the time, let me know if you're open to talking to this. That was also a time when you experienced like a loss of a loved one too.
Yes.
And so being like a hustler and like experiencing quite a traumatic event in life, like what did that moment in time like teach you?
Yeah, I would say so I would hustle in college, and my parents were always supportive, and their thing is like, if you want to stay in the dorm, we'll help support you, but I really wanted my own apartment in New York, so, and with my friends, so I decided I'm someone that if you're going to tell me it's impossible, I'm going to show you the way to do it. I can't be told no, and if there's something I want to do, I'm going to make it happen at any cost and any means. And at that time it was working Friday night at hostess, Saturday I'd wake up, teach dance classes for like 6 hours, come back, hostess at night, repeat Sunday. Or there's a point in college when I was like working at Equinox, the front desk before my dance classes in the morning. I'd go and open the gym, go to dance classes, and I was an RA at night. Like I feel like I've always just been this person that's high frequency, which is good and bad, definitely trying to relax a little bit and find those calm moments in life. But I think it definitely just made me the human I am. And as far as my work ethic goes, I think that's something I really take pride in, is just showing up. I'm going to show up, and it's 100% or nothing for me. I'm not good at being an in-between. I've always been a black and white person in the sense of how I show up. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it all the way. If I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to do something. So I've just always been that way. And I feel like that's my best attribute and my worst attribute, depending on the situation. And then when it comes to loss, that was something that happened to me right after college. I was 22 or 23 when it happened. And, I think my first love, a lot of people's first love comes in heartbreak, and mine came in like this really tragic loss. And I think you just learn a lot about yourself in those moments in your community when you face really devastating, heartbreaking situations. I felt it was the first time I think I ever experienced depression in a capacity. I just remember having lunch with my dad after everything had happened, and he asked me, he's like, how are you feeling? And I just felt numb. Like I couldn't explain it, just over so many emotions. But when you're so young, like having to experience something so traumatic and, I know so many people have to go through awful things in life and have experienced even, so it just taught me a lot about my mental health, my community carrying me. And I think now later on in life, I'm doing the work to actually like talk to people and therapists and how that like event shaped me and stuff, or just talk about it in general, because I've always like disassociated when I'm dealing with something or anything, when something's stressful, if I'm feeling shut down, like I just shut down. I like a fan, like I just put it away. So it's just taught me a lot about how I handle stress, process stress in both good and bad ways, and how to do better for myself moving forward. And also, I think made me a more empathetic person. I think that event really made me who I am today, because I think that's why I feel like I value people the way that I do, or I see people the way that I do, is because that was truly a turning point in my youth, you know? Yeah, I think the human experience is something we're so lucky to have. So it just made me grasp onto it a little bit more, and the people around me, and also taught me resilience at a really young age, which is like a bittersweet word to me. But knowing that like I could reach, I feel like, a personal rock bottom and come back from that. And, you know, the thing about loss is people can sit with you in it, but it's not something that anyone else can help you out of but yourself. You know, people can tell you it's going to get better, or it's, you know, all of these things, but really it's like something that is a process that you just have to go through yourself. So getting myself out of that place with the support of my community, but really making that choice to like build from that, I think taught me a lot about the strength that I have within me. So
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many things that like I just relate to a lot, because I also feel like and maybe many people can relate to this too. It's like, I've always thought of myself to have like very strong physical resilience, but like there are moments in time, like things that happen in life that help you develop your emotional resilience. And I feel like that was kind of what was slowly being developed throughout all of that. I didn't experience like, you know, a loss of a lover, which is just terrible to even think about. But yeah, I feel like this year and what's transpired in my life recently has really taught me to like about emotional resilience in terms of like accepting help is so important. And I was like going through the motions of like hustling as well. Like I worked at P-Volve, you know, part-time, and I would do like shift work, which is like physically mentally taxing. You know, it's like you do like the early 5 a.m. shifts, or sometimes when I have the afternoon shifts, I work from like 3 to 9 p.m. and then I drive back home. I live a little further. I'd like arrive at 10 p.m. and sometimes I'm like, oh damn, like I forgot to eat dinner, or and I would just like keep working on like my editing business. And there was this one time where like I had to get a project turned in, but then I just didn't have the time like in the morning to work on it, and so I went to my afternoon shift, and then I came back at 10 p.m. and I just like grinded on it until like 6:30 in the morning. And like in addition to that, like I'm also working on Happy Hour too, which is also like a show that I'm like very passionate about, and I'm like really trying to build it literally from the ground up, and it's self-funded. And so for the longest time I was like, okay, I'm gonna work at P-Volve, I'll do the editing freelance business, and I'm like bending over backwards. Like I'm being very accommodating to my clients, and a lot of them sometimes like also don't know boundaries as well, which is also something that I have to establish like as an editor. And I would also be like working at P-Volve, working at Happy Hour, and it was just like so much work that I thought I could do it, because I was always grown up being like, I'm like so gung-ho, you know, like I could do all of this. Like I feel like I'm a physically like, and like in my friend groups too, like I'm always, you know, deemed as like the strong friend, the mom friend. And so I was like, oh, I have like a reputation to maintain, like people have to know that I can do this. But I couldn't, you know, it was like too much. And like I was like losing sleep, and I just wasn't alert in life anymore. And I got into a car accident because of that. And like once that happened,
Not funny.
yeah, which is not funny, but once that happened, that really like literally like put the brakes in life. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not a sustainable life. I think it was really a moment where like I had to break down my own ego and pride as well.
Totally.
Because I feel like every time I was like, I'm not a cocky person. I don't have this big ego. Like I try to be humble, but like there are times in life, like when you think you're humble, you will be humbled even more. Yeah. And so I was like, Melissa, I think you just like need to accept help, and like, what is family for, you know?
Yeah.
And so I really try to like lean, and they've always been so supportive of me. I was like Melissa, like you can't do everything yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's what I've been learning recently. And so I just had to like slow down, which I'm never the type of person I'm like, I don't want to slow down. Like I'm also very like a productivity person as well, like you put it. But I mean, that had to happen for me to like rewire my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still rewiring, so let me know if you figure it out. But yeah, I think that that's important. And I think the ego isn't always just bravado. It's that narrative, right? We tell ourselves, like you said, like productivity, we can do it all. We have to do it all. So let me know if you figure out the secret sauce to nice balance.
I'll let you know. Okay. Now, you've been in fitness for about 10 years now.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how a lot of dancers, they like go into the fitness industry. Yeah, how did you like fall into fitness then?
Yeah, I think it's actually like a very natural crossover because I feel like we move our bodies, you know, we find solace and passion and fulfillment in moving our bodies. And, you know, so fitness and instructing, I think really like they cross over nicely. And I just honestly remember growing up and there was certain expectations of how the body, you know, and like rooted in archaic toxic beliefs of how the body should be conditioned or look. And I just remember these expectations that weren't necessarily spoken about, but were kind of upheld in the dance industry, and not knowing the proper tools of how to cross-train my body to just even be stronger outside of anything aesthetic, right? Just how to get a stronger body to better my craft. So I just got curious about it. And then I started working at Equinox in the morning at the opening shift, just at the front desk, and being around trainers and seeing people move their bodies daily as a habit and seeing the same clients come in and out. And I just got curious about it. And it was something that I eventually just started to learn. And of course, with the odd hours of dance and performing and being, you know, at the drop of a hat, you could, you know, drop of a dime, you could get an audition notice. So being flexible with scheduling and training really had that availability, because you could train clients early in the morning and then do things in the afternoon. You could kind of be in control of your schedule, which is really fantastic. But really, I just wanted to understand the body more and how to better serve mine at the time, really, is like how to just be kinder to it with strength training, how to get all the tools I wish I had when I was younger, when I was professionally dancing.
So how did you get roped into the whole P-Volve multiverse then?
Yeah. So I was actually working at a former fitness company, and our now chief of training officer, Antonia Vicario, actually called me and thought it would be great for P-Volve and recommended me for the role. And yeah, had an interview, auditioned, all that jazz.
And what year was this? Because like I'm so like interested in the history of P-Volve, and like I always joke about, it's like when I go to New York, I have to like visit the institution. It's not the original institution, because it was a different studio back then, but like I have to like, it's like a mecca for the P-Volve.
I love that. That was 2019 when she started talking to me. I signed on in 2020, right at the start of the pandemic, truly. I think I signed full-time with P-Volve right before the pandemic shut down, like 2 weeks before the world shut down, like in March. But I started working with them.
Or was
no, I was already in LA. I didn't get connected with P-Volve until LA. So January 2020 is when I officially started, and then like eventually fell into my full-time role with them in March of 2020.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And that is an interesting time, because so they were like opening up the
we were supposed to open up the LA studio, and the LA studio did open during the pandemic. And it was when there were strict, you know, restrictions. We were, by the time we finally kind of all could go back into public spaces, we were outside on our back balcony, and we had to wear masks. We had silent disco headphones. I think we could only have at most like 10 people, and we just trained year round outside. So whether it be like so hot in the summertime in mass, people sweating at 90 degrees, or in the winter with heaters and sometimes one client, it's been amazing to see the community grow. But it was like truly, I mean, I think for all of us, a wild time to experience.
It must have been such a hard time for the business too. It's like they're opening up a brand new studio that they've built, and then suddenly it's like you can only have like spaced out 10 people in class. Like what was the beginning phases where you literally just join, and then suddenly there's this huge rock that gets thrown at the company and also at your livelihood there too?
Well, I think because P-Volve is omni-channel, so they do have the live virtual studio. We do have our streaming content as well. I think it really was amazing for the company because
They
people were
adapted.
interested in home fitness at that point when no one wanted to go out because they were so scared of the pandemic and COVID and when it was just like ravishing the world. Like, we luckily had online fitness, which a lot of people gravitated towards, so we could bring the method to life in people's living rooms on Zoom like we do together, like on Live Virtual Studio. But as far as the physical space, it was there'd be like at times one client that would show up, and there are still clients today. So it's fun to see those moments of like, wow, we were outside on the balcony together in mask training. And I think P-Volve is definitely the visibility has increased, but the word's getting out there more. So it's fun to see this little thing just kind of blossom into this, we're franchising, have so many locations opening up, but I'm really happy we're out of that time for all sense and purposes.
Oh, absolutely. I remember
everyone.
when I went, even in 2021 too, like we still had to wear masks, and like looking back at those moments, I was like, how did we do that? I mean, for the instructors, so you'd have to like teach multiple sessions a day with masks
just be
on.
sweating
like
through.
We'd come in one class like for a mask, but even one class was so hard. I'm like, how did I even like get through those 55 minutes with a mask on?
Yeah.
And in the past, I guess we just got used to it. To like, I don't know how, like preserving the oxygen. I have no idea. Like, I'm not, sorry, don't come at me. I'm not right. But yeah, it was difficult. Like, I remember in the past, I used to box more too in 2021. I would like, it was like a lot of cardio, and I would just have a mask on. Like, dang, like we really did that.
We did. We did.
Something that I feel like I would like to address is that when someone thinks of boutique fitness, and I mean, when I first go into the studio, I'm like, it's a very beautiful space. But sometimes when people think of going to a fitness studio for example, in Los Angeles or in New York City, it can feel like a very elitist group.
Totally.
And like, I think a lot of people will have that shared sentiment. And you're like, oh, I feel like this is a place where only like the influencers go, or like the models go. But like, what do you think has changed over the years, like since working at, a functional fitness place like P-Volve?
Yeah, I actually really take pride. I think we have one of the most beautiful, diverse communities, and diverse in all the capacities that word represents and means. And especially coming from, I've experienced a lot of different fitness studios at this point, especially in LA. And thinking back to some of the previous places, I've worked, I really take pride in the LA studio. I'm super happy with the community, all ages, all bodies, all ethnicities. It's really something I think that from the front desk to the trainers, we really think about. And I think when you walk in, you feel there's a sense of community. And we are kind people, we're empathetic, and we want you to come in, and we're going to see the people that come into our classes. Because I know also as an instructor, one of my favorite things to do is just go take other places and observe. And I want people to like say hello when I enter, and like agree. And I think that's something we really cultivate from like the bottom up at P-Volve, is community focused. And I think that it's only gotten, more diverse truly over the last 3.5 years. And I hope it continues to do that, because like I said, with all the different programs and just the method in itself, I think can appeal to a lot of different people, whether you're older, younger, dealing with injuries, and just want to work smarter for your body and not harder. I think there's like, it could be anyone's workout. It can be anyone's workout,
My last day working there, there was this really cute 70-something-year-old man that walked in. And he was like, because P-Volve works with like a certain insurance provider for, I think it's Medicare, but like that was his first time he walked in, and he was like, I live close by, and like this place works with my insurance, and I can get like 4 free classes a month, and so I want to try it out. And I was working that day, it was my last day. I was like, let me give you a tour. And it was just like so great seeing someone like him walk into the studio, and then just telling him, be like, this is really a place for everyone.
I think sometimes when you look at Instagram, it is a beautiful studio. It is, so I think people sometimes maybe get these notions, like you said, that it's this really beautiful studio that's maybe intimidating, but the facility is just one part of it. And we're really lucky that ours is, an open air, gorgeous balcony studio. It's beautiful, but it's only one part. And I really hope that the community does feel at home and welcomed when they walk in the doors, and feel like they have a beautiful facility to work out in, but hopefully welcoming.
Has he been coming to class?
Yes, he has been coming to class.
Good. I remember I signed him up for his first class.
He's been coming every week, every Monday at 11.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that. And okay, I do want to talk about like diversity, because you said that you try to cultivate a very diverse community for the trainers, the front desk, staff as well, in general. So when it comes to like hiring
Yeah.
a trainer, for example, it's like, what do you look for in a trainer in terms of like personality, obviously with experience and, values?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things about P-Evolve is it's a pretty rigorous training process to become an instructor. So with that, though, we're lucky to be in LA. So I feel like there is a large talent pool that naturally just has a lot of different applicants applying, which is a beautiful thing. But I think one of the things I always took note of growing up or working at other places was that a lot of times maybe the clientele or the instructors looked one way or majority of one way. And I really wanted to cultivate or help cultivate, it's definitely a community and group effort, but help cultivate a place where it felt like there is a teacher for everyone and a safe space or a welcoming space for everyone. So that's something that I've just tried to focus on in my role, and to do what I can where I can, which is, having the responsibility of hiring, but really just, I think, we look for just hard-working hustler people in the sense, it is a demanding job, and the training is rigorous because we hold ourselves to really high standards on the P-Evolve team, which is a really beautiful thing. It's definitely working for P-Evolve has made me a better trainer, a more thoughtful leader, all of these things due to the leadership and the people that I have the pleasure of working and being around. So really just hardworking and hustlers. Yeah.
It's so cool to see you being in a leadership role because like coming from a dance background, like I don't know if you ever thought like I'm going to be the director of training one day, like overseeing, a very talented roster of trainers. Like that's quite a big leadership role to have. Like what is it like? Did you always feel like you were someone with leadership capabilities?
I've started doing it since I was a younger age, just in school would do silly things like class president, debate team, speaking in front of people. And I would say like growing up actually with my Japanese mother gave me a lot of, like my mom was never afraid to say how she felt about things. And so my dad always empowered me to speak up and be strong too. So I felt like I always was told to feel confident in what you have to say as long as I can really own what I'm saying and be educated about what I'm talking about. And I feel comfortable and like empowered to do it. I think from a young age, I didn't necessarily think I'd be here. I think one of the things I have come to love later on in life is that just because you're in one chapter of your life, maybe you're dancing and doing this thing doesn't mean who knows where you'll be in the next chapter of your life. Yeah. So I feel like that's been fun. Like I never thought maybe I didn't think I'd be here, if that's the question. I didn't think I would be, but I love it and it makes a lot of sense to me, and I'm really enjoying learning the skills that I am right now.
To wrap up on a couple of questions.
Yes.
You talked a bit about this maybe in the beginning of our conversation, but fitness, I know it sparks a lot of joy in you, but outside of fitness, what sparks you joy?
I love being in California. So I have 2 dogs.
Which I've met.
Yes.
They came at
I
me.
couldn't bring them out here. I'm sorry. They would just deter from any conversation we try to have. But I have a pug and a husky. They bring me immense joy. And that was probably one of the first experiences I've ever had where animals really, I can feel like how they help your mental health, your stress levels. I cannot say enough good things about what getting dogs has done for me as a high frequency being. Yeah.
Go for walks with them.
Love being outside. That cliche LA 70 and sunny weather, really, hiking. I love to ride my bike. I go to the beach is like my personal favorite, like escape. Just drive to the beach, shut off my phone. It's my favorite thing to do. And one of the, cliche LA, but I love going to the beach and just being out in nature. And then just being with my family. I have a really tight-knit family and group of friends. So my community really brings my source of happiness, just being with my people, truly. So, and I go to a lot of concerts.
Yes,
that brings
we were
a lot
both
of
in
joy.
the jungle concert.
Yes, jungle.
But you were in the pit though. I was like, oh my goodness.
know.
I had so many friends in the pit, and I was like not in the pit. And like the next day,
music.
I would see stories of all of my friends in the pit. I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you guys are so close. But it was a dance party.
Yes.
So good.
And reading.
Yes. One final question. Where can people find you if they would like to take a class with you?
Yes, P-Evolve Los Angeles. That's in West Hollywood.
Yes.
So right off of Melrose and La Cienega. I am on our streaming platform. If you like to just wake up and work out on your own time, we have like thousands of workouts online. So pevolve.com, or just work out with me in our live virtual studio like you and I do.
Yes.
Which I teach every Thursdays on.
Cool.
Yeah.
You can find us either in studio or on live for us, because
Melissa will be there.
I'll be there too. But no, this has been so fun, Danny. Thank you so much for
Yes.
agreeing to this interview. And as always, I always felt like I just kind of knew you from afar, as an admirer from afar. But it's always good to like finally sit down and get to know you better. So thanks so much for coming.
Mutual
on Happy
feeling.
Hour.
Thanks for taking your time and bringing these lovely snacks.